Hi, welcome back to the Traveling Family Podcast. This is episode number 5, and today we are going to be focusing on Hollywood Studios,
Hollywood Studios.
Walt Disney World. I'm Amanda.
I'm Keith. And we're the Traveling Family. So, we're going to jump into Hollywood Studios here. A little bit of history on Hollywood. Opened up in May of 1989, originally as Disney's MGM Studios. They had a partnership with MGM at the time. Changed over to Hollywood Studios in 2008.
But do you know why they had a partnership with MGM?
Universal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Universal started construction in 1987, and it was a very similar premise. So Disney amped up their timeline and partnered with MGM.
And originally the park was not just a theme park, but it was also a working studio.
Yeah, that's why I think there's a little bit of an identity crisis with Hollywood Studios up until recently, like the last few years. It was kind of fallen flat because what it was originally designed for was not at all what it was functioning for anymore. And I don't know how much backfill they were successfully able to do. I might get some hate in the comments for that.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Just my opinion.
But at the same time, now they've opened up Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge is there, and you've really got a park that, well, as you'll kind of hear, it was a half-day park at one point in time for us, and now probably is a full-day park and then some.
Yeah.
For us, at least, as our family. Other families may have always had it as a full-day park.
Yeah, and I think it depends on your interest. Like, we're in a very unique time right now where our family is interested in Disney Junior.
Yep.
And Star Wars.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And so I think that's probably a pretty unique circumstance that, we've got interest in all the different areas of Hollywood Studios. But Hollywood Studios is broken down into, I think it's 6 different areas. You've got the Hollywood Boulevard, which is right when you walk in. To your left then is Echo Lake and then Grand Avenue. You've got Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is the newest land that has opened up. I think that opened in either late 2019. I think it was in 2019, maybe summer or fall of 19, because when we were there in January of 19, it was not open yet, but you could kind of see quite a bit of it from like Toy Story Land and such. So Star Wars, and then, as I mentioned, Toy Story Land, and then you've got the animation courtyard. That is a lot of your Disney Junior activities. Little Mermaid is over there in Animation Courtyard. And then Sunset Boulevard. So I think Hollywood Studios has kind of an identity crisis. What's the icon of Hollywood Studios?
Well, that is. The icon is kind of an identity crisis, as you said. Right now, Disney really kind of uses Tower of Terror as the icon for Hollywood, but some people think it's the Chinese theater.
Yeah.
At one time, there was a huge Mickey Sorcerer's hat.
Yeah, that went away in 15. But honestly, I think Toy Story Land for some people is becoming like the new modern icon for the...
I don't know about that, because it's not, there is nothing... The icon stands out. It's taller. It like draws your eye. It's that area that typically centrally located. Now, Tower of Terror is not, but the height of Tower of Terror really makes it more, I think, of what the icon kind of is for them. And that's where they do the projections. Shows are on Tower of Terror. So, I mean, I think that really has kind of transitioned in. But the Chinese theater is right there centrally located. Like you walk in and there is the Chinese theater.
Yeah.
So leave us your thoughts on the icon.
Yeah, what do you think is the icon of Hollywood Studios?
All right, so do we want to jump into our 2019 trip?
Yep. So as we mentioned in the Animal Kingdom podcast, we were there in January of 2019 for the Run Disney weekend, the marathon weekend. And we spent half day in Animal Kingdom in the morning, and then we hopped over to Hollywood Studios for the afternoon. And again, there was no Galaxy's Edge. We were not into Star Wars anyways at that time. So we went basically for Animation Courtyard, which is Disney Junior, and Toy Story Land. Like that was the reason we were going over there. And that's why it was a half-day park for us, because we didn't know how much there was really going to be to do.
Right. And there was no Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at that time. So that was another big attraction that has now since opened that people are, going on, because that was actually under construction at the time that we went, I believe. So because the Great American Movie Ride was no longer.
It had just stopped, I want to say.
Yeah, and they were transitioning over to Mickey and Minnie's.
Yes. So we went to lunch at Sanaa over at Animal Kingdom Lodge between. We took a bus from Hollywood to Animal Kingdom Lodge, had lunch at Sanaa, and then took a bus back over to Hollywood Studios for the afternoon. That was a really good lunch.
It was a great lunch. You had the naan bread, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime my lunch can be bread and dip, sign me up.
Right.
It was really good. I would like to go back, though, and try to get one of the tables by the window. Because remember, we had a booth at the back of the restaurant, which was still very nice.
And we were able to go out and look at the animals that were on property there of the resort, and which is really cool. I mean, it's
but one of the specialty things about this lunch spot is that you can be right there at a table and the animals are right on the other side of the glass. That's really, really cool.
Yep. Very, very cool. So,
but that's for another topic, another time. Moving on back to Hollywood Studios. So we went to, we get to Hollywood Studios, walked down Hollywood Boulevard, and we went straight over into the animation courtyard.
Yep.
Because we had a fast pass for, this will tell you the age of our child when we went. We didn't book any fast passes for the morning of Animal Kingdom because you could only do fast passes in one park for a day. So we booked our fast passes in Hollywood Studios as the Disney Junior Dance Party fast pass. Like that was our top priority of the day, the Disney Junior Dance Party. Because again, we had an almost 3-year-old who watched more Disney Junior than I care to admit. And she loved every second of it until
Mickey and the Roadster Racers decided that they were going to start making their way to the dance party. And
there was loud vroom, vroom.
And as we talked about in the previous pod with It's a Bug's Life, we had issues with dark spaces and loud noises, and we had to take our child kicking and screaming out of the Disney Junior Dance Party.
Yeah, I think she was afraid that a car was literally going to come racing into the space that we were all sitting and dancing. And that's so sad and traumatic, but
so
I don't know that we'll ever do Disney Dance Party again. Maybe we'll see. She's getting a little older now, but then we went out to the courtyard. And this was back before the pandemic, so you could still do the meet and greets. They were active. And she got to meet Sophia, Vampirina,
Doc McStuffins,
and I think Pluto.
And Pluto. All four were at one point in time or another doing a meet and greet within the courtyard.
Yeah.
We were back to the courtyard several times throughout the day. That was kind of just one of those, again, we didn't have a whole lot of places in Hollywood to go. We weren't going to go down Sunset Boulevard to Tower of Terror or the Rock and Roller Coaster because it just didn't work for our family at that time. Yeah. So, we really kind of stuck in Toy Story animation courtyard. The only thing that really did scare coming out of the animation courtyard was the Imperial March with Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers. So this was before, again, she hadn't really watched Star Wars.
She might still be a little nervous with that.
But great time as far as meeting with the characters. She really enjoyed that. I mean, that was fantastic. They did a really nice job from that standpoint. And then over to Toy Story Land.
Yep. So then we wandered over into Toy Story Land, and we had never been to Toy Story Land before. And it is impressive. I think from a theming standpoint of all the parks, I think Toy Story Land is one of the most in-your-face, obvious, impressive themings. There's a lot of Easter eggs and there's a lot of subtleties in a lot of the other lands, but to feel totally immersed into a movie that you're familiar with, Toy Story, I think that is by far and away. Now I think you could make an argument with Galaxy's Edge also currently, but this is 19, it's not open. So this to me is one of the most impressive lands because it's not like anything else.
And if you don't really know kind of the way that obviously Toy Story Land is themed after Toy Story, but the whole idea and concept behind it is that you're in Andy's backyard. like in the yard itself, and the toys are larger than life, and you're small and walking through.
Yeah, you're a toy.
Yeah, you're a toy walking through the backyard of Andy, and
it's really cool.
It is.
They carry the theming throughout all the ride queues and everything. So there's a lot of neat things to see. So there's 3 main attractions in Toy Story Land. And then there are photo pass spots in Toy Story Land where you can get some neat photos with this background. And then there are also, about to be 2 restaurants. Right now there's 1 counter service restaurant, which I realized I mentioned counter service or table service in the last one, but I didn't explain what that was. So counter service is when you can order your food at a counter, almost like a fast food restaurant in a way, but the food can be varying from fast food. It's not all fast food choices. Menus are different from fast food, but the premise is you go up to a counter, you order your food, and then you wait, you get buzzed, or really now they want everything through the mobile app. So you order your food mobily, and then they let you know when it's ready, you come pick it up. And it's self-seating, you find yourself a table. Now, table service is your traditional go in, be seated at a table, and be either waited on or have a buffet. Right now, most things are family style. They're not really doing buffets, but I think they're slowly going to be reintroduced here. Right now, it's June of 2021. So I think they're getting back to buffet. So that's the biggest difference. Counter service is more like a Chipotle or fast food. Table service is your traditional sit down, be waited on restaurant. So right now they have Woody's Lunchbox, which is counter service, and they have some creative things there, but not an overly big menu by any stretch. And there's been a barbecue restaurant that's supposed to be opening. I think it's been delayed. I want to say it was supposed to open at the end of 2020 originally. And then obviously the pandemic has changed it. And I haven't seen any conversation lately on any of the kind of Disney Insider things or directly from Disney that talk about when this is going to be open. I was really hoping it would be open by our July trip because that was a restaurant that I wanted to try.
Yeah, it's looking more and more like that's not going to happen, but that's going to be a barbecue restaurant. I think they're going to call it Woody's Backyard Barbecue, I believe is what the title.
I thought it was Roundup Rodeo.
Roundup Rodeo. Never mind. I'm wrong, as per usual. So the Woody's Lunchbox, though, one of the best, I think one of our favorite things is the designer Pop-Tarts, or I guess you'd call
fancy Pop-Tarts.
Fancy Pop-Tarts, but those were really good. We had those for a snack in the evening as we were there, so it was fun.
Did we even eat dinner that night? I was trying to think through. I think we did just get some snacks at Woody's Lunchbox. I don't remember eating dinner that night.
No, I don't either.
Okay, so we probably did Sanaa lunch, big lunch, and then just kind of snacked at Woody's Lunchbox for dinner.
Yeah,
it was good, but it was a half day park for us. Oh wait, back up. In Toy Story Land, my parents who were with us offered to take our daughter so you and I could ride Slinky Dog Dash because we kind of wanted to ride it. She was definitely not, I shouldn't say definitely not tall enough. She was only not tall enough by an inch or two. And my parents offered to kind of take and walk her around. She was getting tired by this point because she was still technically taking naps at this time. But we were totally blowing off her nap time by staying in the park. So they put her in her stroller and were pushing her around. And it was a 60-minute wait, and it was every bit of 60 minutes. But we waited in line for Slinky Dog. And you want to talk about theming again, the theming in Slinky Dog Dash's queue is really, really good. So we waited in line, got to ride Slinky Dog, fun roller coaster, smooth roller coaster. We get off the roller coaster and met back up with my parents. And our child was like a whole new kid, not tired, not cranky, so excited to tell us about how she went on the alien swirling saucers. And I kid you not, to this day, and I'm going to be filming a podcast with her soon, and I guarantee she will bring up this ride. I think this is her favorite ride in Disney. And she's now since ridden quite a few of the rides.
I would agree with that. I think this is one of her absolute favorite rides to go on. And
this is one of her must-dos.
It's just the alien.
It's kind of alien swirling saucers is kind of like the teacups, right? But it's not as spinny. Right. You do kind of spin and whip around, but not in like a dizzying circle necessarily, because the whole ride just kind of moves and whips you around. It is definitely not my favorite, but I have to whisper because she's outside the room now.
It's great. I mean, and it was originally, it's the East Coast answer to Mater's
Yeah,
something
over
like
in Disneyland.
over in
Mater's got
Disneyland.
a similar ride.
Yeah, in Pixar area or Cars Land, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we had to do that again then with
she
mom and
wanted
dad.
mom and dad to experience this awesome ride. So we got to do that again. And then after that, we went to Toy Story Mania.
Yep.
And Toy Story Mania might be one of my must-dos when you're in Hollywood Studios. It's not a roller coaster by any stretch, but it's a fun interactive game ride, and I'm so dang competitive. I love those kind of rides, even though I'm terrible at it. There's a whole club or culture of people on the internet that have like hacks on how to get high scores in Toy Story Mania. I should read up on those and not tell you before we go next time.
For sure. And it is a lot of fun. It is, if you're competitive, it's a lot of fun to try to get the high score, or if you have kids that they just like pulling the string and shooting the balls out and everything else.
Yeah, it's like carnival game themed, if you will.
Honestly, I don't know if you ever went to Disney Quest. Back when Disney Quest was a thing.
I did.
So there were Disney Quests, and not very many of them across the country. There was one at what is now Disney Springs, but at the time was downtown Disney.
Okay.
And then there was one in Chicago, and that's the one I went to, was in Chicago. And it was basically a huge arcade, Disney themed. So it had these types of interactive rides and different things. So it was kind of the precursor, I felt like, to what like Toy Story Mania was.
Oh, crazy. But I don't think I've ever been to one.
So it was a lot of fun. No longer, Disney Quest is no longer. So, but
that stinks. I would go.
Yeah. Oh, that
would be a good way to get your Disney fix if you were a big fan of Disney but couldn't go, or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would fall completely flat compared to the park experience.
They did okay. It was okay. It was a lot of fun. I was a high schooler at the time going to it, so it was fun for us because we got to shoot things at people and do different things. You're in like bumper cars shooting big rubber balls at the other cars and stuff. It was cool. It was kind of a fun thing. But anyway, so back to Hollywood Studios. So really that was our 2019 trip. We did basically close the park down, I think, that night.
Yes, because there was a show starting, I want to say, or fireworks or something. But at this time, our daughter did not like the loud booms. So she just kind of wanted to get out of there. She didn't want to stay. And we didn't force anything. This goes back, I've said it a million times, but I will continue to say it over and over again. You are never going to do everything in Walt Disney World. It is impossible in one trip. So don't push yourself so hard. Don't force yourself to do things that are just going to completely put members of your family in a tailspin. There will be times where you will get at each other's throats. There will be times you'll get frustrated by something. But just remember, you're in Disney. It's a trip for everybody. And there's no sense in, if you have a toddler or a little kid who's so scared of fireworks, this is really hard to say right now. There's always another time that you can see them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as is obviously right now, no fireworks going on. But also, I think at this park, this was a part of the pretzel fiasco, if I remember correctly. And you probably don't. This was more me and my daughter. She wanted a pretzel, Mickey pretzel.
This was Disney Springs, I want to say.
No, this was not. This was Hollywood Studios. This was in a park.
Share your story then.
She wanted a Mickey pretzel. I buy her a Mickey pretzel. I take a bite off of it, and she freaked out because I had broken a piece of the Mickey pretzel off, and she didn't. So I went back and bought another Mickey pretzel.
I'm sure you weren't mad about because you love pretzels.
Well, right. So I took the one that I had broken and gave her the full new one for the Mickey pretzel. But this was late at night. She was tired anyway. It's just like, it's just one of those things. But yes. So
Are you sure that wasn't Disney Springs?
I am positive it was not Disney Springs. It was in a park.
Okay.
And I'm almost 100% positive it was Hollywood Studios.
I'm trying to picture where the pretzel stand is that you would have bought a pretzel from.
I think it was as we were heading out toward the front of the park. But
are you sure you're not mixing this with the balloon fiasco of 2019 in Magic Kingdom?
No.
We'll get into that one.
No, that was 2020. We had to switch the balloons out.
No, it wasn't. Wow, now your brain's really...
Yeah, yes it was, because we had this last... Anyways, we'll get to that later. 2019, the balloon was where we couldn't figure out how to shut it off.
And it was the fiasco that you had to return it because she wanted the blue. She told you she wanted the blue one. We'll get into this in the Magic Kingdom podcast. I'll bet my life, your life, the dog's life, our next trip to Disney,
Okay.
on the fact that it was 2019, the balloon fiasco.
Could be. I could be mistaken, but
just like the pretzel thing.
I don't think I am on that one.
We'll do some research.
Anyways, so hopping in, that was our 2019 trip. Then let's go to our 2020 trip. This was our last day. This is our last park that we visited. And of course, we got a rainy day in Orlando, Florida.
Which we are very lucky, though, because this was the last day in both the 2019 and the 2020 trip, and the only day that we really had severe weather issues, so to speak. And I wouldn't even say it was severe. It wasn't
severe.
But we didn't have rain any of the other days. Now, we were there in January of 19, so you usually have better weather in January of 19, but it was very chilly. I was layered up and cold almost that whole trip. But that was the first time we really had rain in Disney, so we got super lucky with that. However, we should have been better prepared. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
And we made the amateur mistake. We had not packed ponchos and bought them for, a lot less money prior to the trip.
Like everyone tells you to do.
The one tip that I think everybody probably has heard is they're going to Disney, but we didn't. So
we did not buy the ponchos in advance. So you went down to the gift shop. Now, we were smart enough to realize that it was definitely going to rain when we woke up.
Yep.
And you went down to the gift shop at our hotel.
Yes.
And bought the ponchos there. So we at least were prepared and not scrambling in a park running into some place to buy the poncho. We pre-purchased them with the anticipation that it was most likely going to rain. And sure enough, while we were waiting in line for the bus at the resort, it started raining. So we started using them right away.
Yeah. And as we got there, it actually kind of quit. Because we got there a little bit early from what park opening was.
Yep. And we were able to go get in line. We jumped right away in line for Mickey and Minnie's because by this time, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad was open. So we stood in line for that. And part of the queue was outside because of social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
So we stood outside with our ponchos on. And then the other half of the queue is inside. And by the time we left the ride, I think the rain had pretty much stopped.
Yeah, we were out of the ponchos after the ride was done. We shed the ponchos right before we got into the ride. And then when we came back out, there was no need for them. So, which was great. And ended up being a really actually nice day from that standpoint. But so we did Mickey and Minnie's. And then we had actually, so I guess we should back up, right? Like to the start of the morning. We probably jumped the most important part of our morning leading into Hollywood. The virtual queue for.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the Rise of the Resistance, and I guess we should back up even more because we had spent the entire quarantine watching multiple times all of the Star Wars movies. So I had never seen a full Star Wars movie. Like ever in my life. Our daughter, I think she was the one that kind of sparked us to start watching these.
Thanks to her uncle.
When she was 4, started to want to watch all of the Star Wars movies. And she'll tell you what her favorite one is. And so now going into our 2020 trip, we've watched all the Star Wars movies. We have an appreciation for what Star Wars is, who the characters are. It makes more sense, the land now, which is great because the land's now open. So I had watched how to snag a boarding group. And I have a totally separate little, I think it's on Instagram, a reel that talks about how to snag a boarding group.
For Rise of the Resistance.
Which is the big Star Wars ride, probably the biggest draw or demand in Hollywood studios to date.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, it might be one of the bigger draws across all 4 parks.
Yeah, and it is a very well done ride. And I've even seen people and heard people talk, whether they do or do not know Star Wars or like Star Wars, they're still very impressed with this ride just because it's so unique. That's all I'll say about it. But you have to get a virtual boarding group. You cannot just go to the park that day and get in line and ride this ride. And I think that's one of the things that Disney does a pretty good job of communicating, but I feel so bad for people that are maybe fans of Star Wars, but not diehards and really want to ride this ride. And they go to the park that day and that's the main thing they want to do. And they don't realize that they have to get a boarding group. Now there's still a chance later in the day that they can try, but the first time you can try to get a boarding group is 7 a.m. currently as of the filming of this or the recording of this podcast, which is June of 2021, the way to get onto the Rise of the Resistance is to snag a boarding group virtually through your mobile device before you even go to the park that day. So we get up, I snag boarding group 10. And I don't realize what this means, but we have boarding group 10. I don't know if there are 10 boarding groups between the time the park opens and the time they open up the next phase of boarding groups. Like, I have no clue how many boarding groups there are. So I don't know what this means for our day. And we did have a reservation for like a brunch at 11:40 at Hollywood and Vine, which is a character meal. So that was a big deal to our daughter, this meal. She didn't know that it was character, but we knew it was character because we knew if she wasn't super thrilled with Star Wars area, we weren't sure how afraid she would be. Even though she loved the movies, it's one thing to love the movies on a screen in your house. It's another thing to come face to face with Kylo Ren, right? Like, that's a little different. So we get off of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, and by this time it is after 10 a.m. So the park is now officially open, and Rise of the Resistance is still not calling groups, meaning Rise of the Resistance has not opened yet. And it's not uncommon for this ride to have little down spurts. I think especially when the weather is not great, it happens more, even though it's an indoor ride. So I'm thinking, oh, great, we're not going to get on it at all. We didn't really know what to do. And again, we had no clue time-wise how long it would take for them to call boarding group 10. We didn't know.
Yep.
So we started walking over toward Toy Story Land because our daughter wanted to try to ride Slinky Dog Dash. Now she knew she was tall enough and she wanted to ride this roller coaster. And we go and get in line, and the line was all the way back at, what is that building? It's got like the history of the parks right now.
Yeah, it's
one of your things you want to do in the.
You asked me too quick.
Just prepare for the podcast.
It's great moments with Walt Disney, I think, or something like that. It's themed with Walt Disney, and it's the history of.
Bottom line is, it's like an animation courtyard. It's way outside of Toy Story Land, and this is where the beginning of Toy Story Land or Slinky Dog Dash is. The line starts here because of social distancing. So we waited in line for 45 minutes, and it's like 11 a.m. Maybe like 10:45. I think it was like 10:45. Because that would make sense. We got off around 10, Mickey and Minnie's, and around 10:45 or so, our group gets called for Rise of the Resistance, our boarding group. And we are almost up to now where you actually enter the main queue of Slinky Dog Dash. So it took us 45 minutes to get from back by Animation Courtyard up to that entrance. And I just walked up to a cast member and I said, and you stayed in line with our daughter, but I went up and just said, is there any way we can get like I wasn't even looking for a fast pass per se, but wondering if there was anything we could do, because we had just waited in line for 45 minutes and now we had an hour to get back to Rise of the Resistance, which if we had kept waiting in the line queue, we might have made that. But we had the 11:40 a.m. brunch reservation, and I didn't want to miss that because, again, it was a character meal.
Right.
So I went and talked to the cast member, and they were super polite, as they always are, and asked, where we were at in line. I told them we're right here on the bridge, and we've been waiting for 45 minutes. Is there any way we can even come and like cut back into line at this spot? Like, I didn't know if that was something Disney was doing, because that's another thing I had learned with Rise of the Resistance and the way the virtual boarding groups and kind of the unpredictability of it is, even though there's no guarantee, and I want to be very clear on this, there is no guarantee that you'll be able to have modifications to anything in your plans because of Rise. More times than not, you will be able to be forgiven if you're late for a reservation, or what I've read more so recently, and we didn't experience this part firsthand, is Rise of the Resistance will forgive if you show them your receipt from a sit-down meal and your boarding group was called. Now you have to show them this. You can't just go up and tell them this. You have to show some proof, but they'll work with you. So we went I talked to the cast member. She said, bring your party up here. And I thought she was going to like scan our bands so that we could come back, kind of like rider swap. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I said, okay, so we just come back here after we get done riding. And she said, no, just go right here. And she put us through like the rider swap line. Yeah. So we got to basically walk right on Slinky Dog. We didn't have to wait in the end of the line, which again, that was not my intention at all. I actually felt really guilty about it because I felt like we were cutting in front of all these people and we weren't trying to ask for extras. I just didn't know if they had something that could be done. So we got super lucky. We got to go on Slinky Dog. And then when we were on our way over to Rise the Resistance, I ran over to the restaurant and just said, we're on our way to Rise. And they said, well, you still have, 30 minutes till your reservation. But Rise was a long line at that point. And the reservation, Hollywood and Vine just said, come back when you're done riding. So we went over there. We got in line, but we still waited a solid 45 minutes, almost I would say.
An hour, actually.
To get onto.
And so that's the thing. It's not just that you have to get the virtual queue. You still have to wait in line
yeah,
for the
you can
ride.
Just go wait in line at a certain time. However, I have seen people too, though, that's boarding groups will get called and they'll basically walk on. So I think it's just a matter of when you go back and all of that. So we went back. We rode Rise the Resistance. Our daughter was so freaked out, and understandably so. Yeah. I mean, this is now, you are in Star Wars now. This is no longer a movie you're watching. And again, that probably backfired that she knew the character. She kind of understood like what was happening. And so she was super nervous. She was clinging to you the whole time.
Yeah. So I experienced Rise, but I didn't because I was trying to console our daughter who was in tears and clinging and clutching and just scared to death.
And shaking, you told me.
And shaking the whole ride. So
well, we got off the ride and we got to take her straight over to the character meal.
Which was great. Yeah. And the character meal at that time was actually holiday themed.
Yes.
So it was Minnie, Mickey, Goofy, and Pluto. Mm-hmm. And they were all in their holiday costumes, which was awesome. Goofy was dressed up as Santa. Really good meal, too. Yeah. Was super impressed with the food on this trip. Honestly, we'll talk
pleasantly
about.
Surprised, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know that that's blue, but that was the 2019 trip. But I'm pretty sure I got the right one that time. It was the last time I had to. I'm almost positive. Anyways, we're not gonna go back to that.
No, I'm right.
So once we got done with our meal and everything, we ended up going back to, that's right. This was the other thing that was also throwing us off the whole day. We had a reservation to build a droid at the Droid Depot.
Oh yeah. At like 1:40.
Yeah. So we were like really kind of.
Which wouldn't have been a big deal. If we had been at our 11:40 a.m. reservation, we would have made our 1:30 droid build with no problem. But because we went to our reservation at like 12:30.
Yeah, we were kind of sweating.
We were kind of sweating it out, trying to finish up our meal over at Hollywood and Vine, and then run back over into Star Wars Land. So I will say and there's nothing we could have really done. Planning wise, even, I think we planned it fine.
Yeah.
But the boarding group for Rise is what really threw the wrench in everything.
So just be flexible. Just understand that you may be kind of sweating out.
But don't sweat it.
Yeah, everything happened, and it's you might get some nasty comments. It's Star Wars Land. It's Galaxy's Edge. It's Batu.
Okay. On Disney's website, it's called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
It's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Okay. Sorry. Just. Anyways, but
you keep getting out of frame. I don't see how I don't like when I have all this negative space over here.
It's what
I can edit this out, or I can leave it in.
So going back into Galaxy's Edge to the Droid Depot, we had our 1:30 appointment. We did make it. Stood in line for just a little bit going in. Due to COVID protocols, we were able to all do it because...
Why don't you explain how you make a reservation for the Droid Depot for those moms and dads out there that are thinking, I would like to make a reservation for my kid for Droid Depot. That sounds interesting. Tell me more about that.
So I felt in making the reservation that you had to put the number of your party. That is not the case.
No, because it clearly states the number of people who will be building droids. And they're $99 a piece. which is expensive.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes, but they are cool.
They're very cool. Don't get me wrong.
So,
but I was not about to spend $350
correct
on droids.
Yes.
For our household.
So I had originally put in 3 because that was our number in our party, not realizing that I was actually buying 3 droids. My wife was quick to point it out that I had made a mistake, as usual. And
what's usual? Me pointing out your mistakes, or you making mistakes?
Both. So from there, I had to call and get the reservation canceled because you actually have to put down a credit card. You have to prepay, like you have to hold your reservation with a credit card. So I had to call, cancel one of them because we were going to do 2.
I think I had to call and cancel it. You may have to. And yes. Actually, it wasn't as easy as I thought. So when I said I wanted to cancel one person, that was like kind of a big deal because they have it like separated out into parties, almost like tables, right? Even though there's not tables, but that's, I think, how they do the reservation system. So as easygoing as Disney is in some ways to help and be customer service friendly, I actually felt like I had to like really struggle to get them just to remove one of us from the reservation, because then they said, well, now we have to go and see if there's even any availability for a party of 2. And in my head, I'm thinking, how can there not be availability for a party of 2? Because we are a party of 3 and now we're about to be a party of 2. Anyways, it all worked out, but I'm pretty sure I was the one that had to call.
Just try not to make the mistake as I did ahead of time, and it becomes
another reason to work with a travel planner, because then you don't have to be the one doing all of this stuff. They can be the one doing all of this stuff.
Correct. So we get there. We had to stand in line for just about 15 minutes or so. Nothing crazy. And again, a lot of this is because of social distancing and you know, protocols that were in place. But she was able to go in with our daughter, and you go into the Droid Depot and you get to pick out all of the different droid parts. You can make a BB-8, you can make a R2-D2. There are also the droids, and I don't know the actual names of them from the.
Where's her daughter when you need her? She probably would know this.
Yeah, she might, but from oh gosh, I'm really struggling here today, and I apologize. Sorry. Oh, anyways, you've got a bunch of different options. You can do different color schemes, everything else. And then you take your parts over to the build and you get to build your droid.
Yeah.
Right there. And they have personality chips that they throw in.
It's fun. It
is fun. And then the droids will actually interact with one another throughout. And they'll actually interact throughout the land. If you want to carry them through the land, they'll start interacting throughout the galaxy's edge there.
But we decided
shipped home, which is great. And it was very simple to do.
And it was fun because they showed up like 2 or 3 days after we got home from our vacation. So when you're kind of on a letdown of getting home from vacation, your droids will show up depending on when you do that. And that's another thing to keep in mind. We shipped ours home straight from the Droid Depot because we were getting ready to leave the next day. So we didn't want to have to go back to the hotel and fumble with it. If you still have like a week left, you may not.
Yeah, you may want to keep the droids with you or whatever it may be.
Right, unless you have somebody getting your mail or something like that. So just keep that in mind, or talk to the cast members about it. They may have a delayed shipping option. I just am not aware of, because we were trying to get ours out the door.
Yeah, and honestly, the shipping stuff home is a great way to.
Yeah, we've had to ship stuff home and this sounds like we went super crazy. I don't feel like we've gone super crazy, but I mean, droids are larger items and we fly, so we don't have a ton of extra room. I'm a pretty concise packer. And I had to buy a book bag this last time, but we didn't have to ship nearly as much. I think the droids were the only thing we shipped because we decided that buying the book bag was cheaper than shipping stuff home, which is definitely accurate.
And in 2019, the reason that we had shipped a lot home is because our daughter actually left before we did, because we had to extend out our trip for work-related items.
So it's easier on my parents to travel with a 2-year-old when they didn't also have all this extra stuff to do.
And it was fun for her being at home. She got to open up the box of goodies once she got home, and that was a lot of fun for her.
So now we're really all over the place, but now let's go back to our 2020 trip. Droid Depot, a lot of fun. If you have a Star Wars fan in your family, I would strongly encourage you to look into this a little bit and consider doing it. Now, there is a lightsaber build as well, which is something we didn't do. And I'm
No.
not sure we will. I know we won't in July.
No.
We don't have anybody that's that big into the lightsabers, and they start at $219. So they're for your diehards or your diehards.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say on that.
The other, so then we went back to Toy Story Land. We really didn't explore Galaxy's Edge all that much. And I think that's probably one of the letdowns that we had from the trip of going, we feel like we kind of missed out a little bit on exploring Galaxy's Edge.
Absolutely, we did.
Really a lot further, but it was fairly crowded, and
it wasn't even that it was crowded. In my opinion, it was that our daughter was afraid to go anywhere near Rise of the Resistance. So she was excited about the droid. She was okay going back into Galaxy's Edge to build the droid because she was excited to do it, and she enjoyed that process a lot. But she didn't really want to hang out in Star Wars Land Galaxy's Edge Batuu. She did not want to hang out there. So we jumped basically from the Droid Depot right back out to Toy Story Land. And that's where she wanted to go on Alien Swirling Saucers again. So that's exactly what we did. And we hit up Toy Story Mania. And that might have been about the end of our day. I think we kind of finished up right there. And we were getting ready to go home the next day. So we kind of wanted to get back to the resort at a somewhat reasonable hour. And again, this was in the middle of the pandemic, so there were no nighttime shows or anything like that going on. The park might have closed at 7 p.m., and I think we probably left at like 5:30.
Yeah, but we did get to see some character cavalcades, which was great because we did a little bit of shopping on Hollywood Boulevard there, as well as we did go down Sunset. This time for that, but again, just really looking for shops. Our daughter wasn't tall enough for Rock and Roller Coaster or Tower of Terror, and I don't think we will.
She is tall enough this year for Tower of Terror.
Yeah, but
stay tuned if you want to know if she goes on Tower of Terror or not. She would probably love it. I was even thinking like if it was just not a scary themed ride, she would probably enjoy that because she likes thrills, but I think it's going to be a little too scary, so I doubt we'll try that. But then we got to go ahead.
I don't know if Mom can handle Tower of Terror because of the height.
Oh, I'm okay with that. I've ridden Tower of Terror before.
Okay.
I can handle it.
So anyways, back and as we got ready to go, and the one thing that we didn't talk about, kind of heading to Hollywood Studios is we were staying at Art of Animation for the 2020 trip, and that is a Skyliner resort. And you get able to ride the Skyliner to Hollywood Studios, which is really cool and a lot of fun.
Yeah, but we didn't do it. We rode it home. We couldn't ride it in the morning because of the weather. So keep that in mind. If you're staying at a Skyliner resort, your plan is to take the Skyliner to either Epcot or Hollywood Studios. If the weather is looking choppy, just don't even push it. I would recommend just going straight over to the buses because there were quite a few people behind us in line that had walked over to try to get on because the weather wasn't horrible at first, but they don't open up the Skyliner if they know that it's coming. And they definitely knew it was coming. I mean, like I said, when we were in line for the bus, it kind of unloaded on us. So you can't take the Skyliner if the weather is not ideal, and just keep that in mind if you're at a Skyliner resort.
Yeah, but we did take it home. Which, it's a great ride. You're able to see Epcot and a lot of the other resorts, Riviera and Caribbean Beach, and
we enjoyed the Skyliner
very much so. Although
even though it just crashed again yesterday.
The had some crashing issues.
Third time in a year.
Yeah, but so we're really looking forward to our next trip as we go in July here, and I think we are going to look. I want to ride Rock and Roller Coaster. I've never ridden Rock and Roller Coaster, so
When are we doing Hollywood Studios in the trip? Because I feel like you're going to have to take some Advil after that, and you're probably going to be laid up for a day or so. That really whips you around, if I remember correctly. Because I have also ridden this one in the past. I love this ride. From what I remember, I think I was like 15 when I rode it last,
but we have not done that. We're probably going to look maybe to do Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon
or Star Tours. I'm interested in maybe doing both of those. But I don't know if we'll be able to get our daughter on it. The Frozen sing along, possibly. Although she told me the other day that she's not that into Elsa anymore. Whatever that means.
It's already getting there. But
so I'm going to tell her, okay, then let's go on the Tower of Terror if you're not that into Elsa. Let's go.
We want to look around Batuu a little bit more, Galaxy's Edge. Batuu is what they call the planet that you're on, because really when you get into Galaxy's Edge, you're immersed into
Just like the Toy Story
Yeah.
immersiveness, that's really what Galaxy's Edge is. You're
Because you're
on
not
this.
paying with cash or credit card. You're
No.
paying with credits.
Yeah, and this is your phone is a data pad.
Yeah.
It's not a phone.
Yeah.
Don't ask where the restrooms are in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. No.
They don't know what the word restroom is. The cast members don't know.
Yeah. So.
Got to figure out how to find the bathroom.
But.
How'd you find the bathroom?
Just I don't know, signs, I think.
Yeah, but the signs don't even say restroom.
No, I know. Well, it was the pictures or whatever were enough. Also, we'd love to do Olga's Cantina. I don't know that we're going to be able to, but that would be...
That's a tricky reservation to get.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to try. Maybe as they're increasing capacities. That's what I should do.
Yeah.
As soon as we're done recording this, I'm jumping on to see if we can get a reservation for that.
So what's your must do in
Yeah.
Hollywood Studios? Let us know. Also, what should we do in July? Like, would you like to see us do anything?
In particular, in Hollywood Studios in July, or really in any of the parks for that matter, or at Disney World for that matter. If there's something that you are interested in learning more about, let us know. Shoot us an email or comment on either the video or on the podcast.
Yep.
I think you can comment on it there. Let us know. We would love to do a little exploring based on your recommendations or what you're interested in. And just want to say thanks so much for listening to us ramble again. We have a lot of fun doing this.
Yes.
And I know that we will continue to try to get more and more concise, and Keith will continue to try to do more research, although this is the trivia guy. He shouldn't even have to do any research before these.
Yeah, I'll try to do better.
He says that at least twice a day.
I'm going to wear my Stitch
No,
shirt
I
the
knew
next
that.
episode.
I knew that you were going to say that. Oh, speaking of the next episode, it's going to be Epcot, which I'm so excited about. My favorite park, as you can see, those of you watching, Epcot over my right shoulder.
Yep.
It is going to be a lot of fun. I think we have never, what?
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Oh, you said no. I thought you meant, it's not going to be fun.
No.
Fine, I'll film this one alone. Oh, well, again, thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time.
And remember, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Same thing.
Hit the subscribe button, not the scribe button.
Listening to our 5-year-old too often here, I think. So her vocabulary is seeping in. But also on the podcast, subscribe, give us a like.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll see you next week for traveling the world in Epcot.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.